Namaste everyone. Very warm welcome to Satsang today. Sadhguru Shri Muji Ji ki Jai. Did you enjoy the unplanned holiday from Satsang? Does anyone know where we stopped?
45, Father.
45? Oh, thank you, my dear.
45 we have to start with.
We start with 45. Okay, thank you. I recall doing this one, but I'll read it again. Timid men fear sensory experience, much as they do tigers. They seek refuge in caves and try to unthink the world. My feeling is we did this one. Sensory experiences are like elephants who, upon encountering a desireless man, see him as a lion. They immediately turn on their heels, or if unable to escape, stay on to flatter and serve him. Sensory experiences are like elephants who, upon encountering a desireless man, see him as a lion. They immediately turn on their heels, or if unable to escape, stay on to flatter and serve him. Now we realize that this is metaphorical, yes. So what happens is that when there is attachment, when there is desire, then these experiences of this phenomenal world, they might seem to have some power over us. What is the power? If I'm attached to something, then if that goes away, and ultimately all that comes must go. So if I'm attached to something, and if it goes away, then there is suffering. Or if I'm averse to something, and it shows up, as it often happens, that which we are averse to often shows up. We are averse to something, it shows up, then that causes suffering. So sensory experiences are like elephants who, upon encountering a desireless man, see him as a lion. Which means that if you are not holding an idea about what should be, you are not putting up any defenses, if you are not sticking on to some experience with glue, then you will not feel the pain, or you will not experience the suffering. Pain can come also as an experience. But the good news is that you don't have to work on desire separately. You don't have to work on becoming desireless. That is the beauty of this inquiry, that is the beauty of this path. That as you come to the recognition of who you are, then all of this duality, desire, doership, all gets taken care of. You see? So you don't have to take this on as a side project. Who are you? As that gets more and more clear, then you will find that in reality you have always been the desireless one. You don't have to work on becoming desireless. They immediately turn on their heels, or if unable to escape, stay on to flatter and serve him. Guruji often says that if you chase the world, it runs from you. But if you just sit with no desire for the world, then the world comes to kiss you. This play, this movement is to serve consciousness. In your being, you will find that all that is needed in service to this being emerges on its own. But this phenomenal appearance is not in service to your false ideas about yourself. So if you approach it in that way, then it might seem like everything that you pick up eventually seems to bite you. Why? Because the false has to be dropped, you see. If the false idea of who you are is dropped away, then you will recognize that whatever the event might be, whatever might be coming up, is for your play, is in service to you. So that's why the sage said they immediately turn on their heels, or if unable to escape, stay on to flatter and serve him. A man with no doubts, who knows only self, has no need of practice or liberation. A man with no doubts, who knows only self, has no need of practice or liberation. Seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, he lives as he is, happily. Very beautiful verse because these are the two aspects of satsang. A man who has no doubts, who knows only self. So, this knows only self, that is what the inquiry is for, that is what the recognition is for. All these pointings, can you stop being? Are you aware now? What is aware of being? What knows you exist? All these pointings are just ways, aids to inquiry for you to look and to come to the recognition about who you are. Then you will find that all is the self. Only the self is reality. So this self-recognition knows only self. Then the one who has no doubts. So what do I always say? That you come to this recognition, but very quickly the but might come. So this but is the doubt. I am the self. I see only there is the self, but, and this but, this doubt is always from the wrong identity. All doubts are personal. I am awareness, but how do I stay there? Is this a doubt from awareness? So immediately it contradicts your own insight. So these are what we call conditions. No doubt can arise unless you have a condition about yourself. So as you come to satsang, You're finding that the recognition is happening, only the self is, and the dropping of the false conditions, the beliefs in the wrong identity is happening. It's so simple, isn't it? But the entire seeming journey of satsang is captured in this one line. A man with no doubts, who knows only self, has no need of practice or liberation. What does this mean? That there is nothing to do to get there. I've been saying, don't take a step. What are you before you take the step towards your thought, towards your perception, towards your relationships, towards anything that is happening? What are you already? No practice is needed or liberation, because what you find is that there is nothing that can truly be bound. All your doubts are about this bondage, all your conditions are about this bondage. But it is even more ludicrous to say that you can be bound than someone coming and telling you that I have bottled up all the space in this room and I want to sell it to you for $10. Will you buy this deal? What you recognize about yourself cannot be bound, isn't it? What you are recognizing now about yourself is forever unbound. Then whose problem, like I was saying the other day, whose problem are you trying to solve? Something that you don't recognize about yourself, about one mythical entity. You're trying to give freedom to the Loch Ness monster. Some of you at least would have heard of this. If you remain with the recognition of yourself, not believing that which is false, then show me how you can pose as someone who is bound looking for freedom. You see? But the point of this pointing is to bring you to neutrality, to emptiness. It is not to get you the idea that I am free. The idea I am free is not so important. At least here now that we are on chapter 18, verse 47. Because, why? Because this I, which means the proclamation of freedom, is itself the limited one. Neither bound nor free. If you are forever unbound, can you be free? There is no bondage, it doesn't apply to you. Bondage or freedom is like if I ask you, what color are the diamonds on your crown? Where that example came from. What is the color of the diamonds on your crown? Or are they real or are they fake? And if you're convinced that they are fake and you want to get real ones, then you'll spend your entire life in misery because there is no such thing. That's why the sage said, a man with no doubts, who knows only self, has no need of practice or liberation. Seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, he lives as he is, happily. Why did he put the last line in? Because most often what we hear in satsang, and even the other day, someone new came to satsang and he said, I'm willing to drop this, but the fear comes, how will my life go on? Is it going to disintegrate into bits? That's why the sage said, seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, he lives as he is, happily. The outward expression can continue to move. All the roles that seem to be required can continue to be played. That which is designed this entire play can play the role of partner, of parent, any situation is all by the design of consciousness anyway. Life needs no support from that which does not exist. Life itself is the play of that which is. One whose mind is emptied by the mere hearing of truth, sees nothing to do, nothing to avoid, nothing to warrant his indifference. Very good. One whose mind is emptied and unconflicted by the mere hearing of truth, sees nothing to do, nothing to avoid, nothing to warrant his indifference. So it's so beautiful that we are attracted to this pointing to the truth. And we find that by the mere hearing of it, the recognition of the self emerges. You don't have to do any spiritual heavy lifting. Just by the mere hearing of this, you recognize what you are. And we are blessed in that way. One whose mind is emptied and unconflicted by the mere hearing of truth, sees nothing to do, nothing to avoid, nothing to warrant his indifference. So neither desire nor aversion. We've looked at this many times. The sage does whatever appears to be done without thinking of good or bad. His actions are those of a child. This is a classic. Sage does whatever appears to be done. Actually, for all of us, this is just a movement within consciousness, all this seeming doing. So when it says sage does, means that consciousness itself is doing all of this. Although outwardly it might appear that the sage is saying this, the sage is doing this. All of this is just moving. The sage does what? appears to be done without thinking of good or bad. His actions are those of a child. A child leads a very natural life. All that is needed for the child's life is there, taken care of. He's not strategizing the 5-year plan, saying, I'm 1.5 years old now. By the time I'm 6.5, I want to achieve these goals and these targets. No child is saying that because the identity is not yet fully developed. The sense of false egoic control over life is not yet developed. His actions are those of a child. Depending on nothing, one finds happiness. Depending on nothing, one attains the supreme. Depending on nothing, one passes through tranquility to oneself. Depending on nothing, one finds happiness. Depending on nothing, one attains the supreme. Depending on nothing, one passes through tranquility to oneself. This is clear to us that as we are empty of any dependence, as our mind is unconflicted, as the sage said, that we're not using the crutches of any appearance, we find that there is so much space to come to the simple recognition of who you are. You find that naturally happiness is present. But what is usually found is that very few, upon hearing this, depend on nothing, are able to just depend on nothing. You see, if it is that simple and you just told everyone, go down to the streets and tell everyone just to be happy, just depend on nothing, you're not able to relate to this formlessness, you see, because we are so used to depending on something. We've always felt that our happiness will come in some form, through some form. That's why the master is a great gift. That's why the master is a great gift, because we are not usually ready to depend on nothing. Then we get, if we are blessed, we get the company of one who is actually depending on nothing. And for a while, it can seem like that is something. You following me? For a while, it can seem like the master is something which himself or herself depends on nothing or nothing. So this is the great lifeboat, because we are not yet ready to depend on nothing. Then, but the longing is for the truth. Then in the form itself, something arises which we call the master, who is pointing you to your formlessness. Now this is the master is the thorn you're using for first aid. All the other thorns are embedded, all the conditions are embedded. This is the thorn that you're using for first aid to remove these thorns, painful thorns. So that is why this thorn is thrown away at the end. It is not thrown away like the rest, as the rest are discarded with great happiness. The discarding happens. But the master is discarded by merging with the master. Merge into that nothing itself. Or as I prefer to say, the nothing itself. So be careful when the mind comes and tells you that I have gone beyond the master. See, that I can is usually very smelly. Don't be in a rush for that. This discarding is the most beautiful merging. It's the most beautiful oneness. To see the that's why I'm saying that as long as that is not clear, then grace has also sent us the form of the master, which might seem like it is something, but is only pointing you to your nothing. So depend on that. If depending on nothing is not apparent, not clear yet, this lifeboat has been sent to us in our lives and it is completely dependable, then you will find that the master is my own holy presence, my own divine presence, your own. And what is this presence representing? What is it the presence of? It is the presence of the self itself. This self is no thing. So if the self is no thing and the master's pointing has got you to the recognition that you are the self, therefore you are no thing, then what thing can you depend on now? If you yourself are no thing, if no thing really touches you, if no thing actually brings anything to you, nor can hurt you or affect you, then what thing can you depend on now? If you have gone beyond all things, if you have gone beyond time and space, in the recognition of what you always were, then what thing can you desire or run away from? In India, in the small villages and towns, there's usually these small medicine sellers. What do they have? They have these stalls. They have no certificate of any sort. Okay, they just have these small stalls. Some of you have been here, you've seen them, and they'll have these small bottles with some pills or some liquid syrup, something. And you go to them and you say, "I have a headache." They'll say, "Take this bottle, 10 rupees." You say, "I have a stomach ache. Take this bottle." Same bottle. Take this bottle, 10 rupees. You say, "I have cardiac malfunction. Take this bottle, 10 rupees." I have a brain tumor. Take this bottle, 10 rupees. Everything is like that. So in the same way, we have one bottle, which is find out who you are, recognize who you are. All your ills, all your conditions, all that you believe about yourself gets resolved in this discovery. That's why I said earlier, don't work on becoming desireless. Don't work on depending on nothing. See that you are nothing. So this is the same bottle we have, but we have it in multicolors, different colors. Are you aware now? Who are you? Can you stop being? Different colors because you get bored. If I just came here every day and said, "Are you aware now?" Who is aware of this awareness? Say, okay, I feel I'm done with this satsang. Who's next? So different color bottles just to keep you entertained as you come to the same recognition. How do you come to this? How do you come to this depending on nothing in the same way? Discover what you are. Recognize what you are. Find what you are representing. Does that have validity? Does that have reality? Why do I prefer to use the word nothing? I was seeing on Facebook the other day, and I don't know if it's true. Many things are on Facebook, which is, as Trump would say, fake news. Fake news. So I don't know if it's true. But I heard that there have been instances of some of the recent Advaita teachers committing suicide. I don't know if any of you have heard this. I saw on my Facebook. Maybe my Facebook is more ghastly than all of yours. So I saw this because somebody reported that they got into some sort of a nihilism. Some of you know this term nihilism, which is uh, that, oh, what's the point of it all? It's all nothing anyway. It's all nothing, okay? Like that. So the discovery that you're making about yourself, although is empty of qualities and attributes, is not nothing. It is nothing. This is a very important distinction. Sometimes jokingly I say, you don't come to the discovery of yourself and you see, oh, this is the same as an empty coconut or something. That would mean that there is nothing. There is nothing inside this coconut. It's empty. You see, the discovery of the self is not that. You come to this discovery of the self, which is so pristine, beyond limits, beyond time and space, beyond attributes and qualities, and yet it is. Prior to beingness, it is. You are. So please don't rush to picking up ideas of nothingness. Come to the recognition of this nothingness, then all these terms of emptiness. Otherwise, sometimes when you hear the term empty, open, they can seem like scary things to you. It is not the loneliness of emptiness, not that kind of empty. It is the source of all things. Present prior to presence, aware before your being. So this pristine nothingness in which all things seem to appear and disappear. All presence, all love, peace, joy, and the opposites. All are part of its play, the self. All intelligence. It is not an inert object. All intelligence emerges from this. All of this beautiful, wonderful play of consciousness emerges from the source, the absolute, the truth, which is what you are, the self. If you hold on to your personal identity and you more and more objectively look at the functioning of this world, then it will be a depressive meaninglessness. It's like a depressive. Yeah. So one second, I'll just make that point, which is that if you look at yourself as a person, and more you're realizing, recognizing the meaninglessness from a personal standpoint of this world, then it can seem like a depressive meaninglessness. Once you see that you are the source and you are the light and you are the screen, then it is a joyful meaninglessness. There's a beautiful meaninglessness. You're not trying to look for meanings in events because you completely find yourself to be meaningful. You need no other meaning to define you. What are we looking for? We are looking for self-definition. Isn't it? What is it? People are searching for who they are. What is my purpose in life? Is it? And then you might come to see that these questions have been looked at for thousands of years, but nobody has come to a conclusive meaningless, to a conclusive meaning, except to say some things which sound good and take the question away. But as you discover yourself to be this consciousness and the source of even this consciousness, then the meaning is found in yourself automatically. There is no further need for self-definition. So before you ask, I just want to say, Paul has mentioned someone's name, and the report that I read was about someone else, but good. Thank you for sharing this about this one as well. I don't want to say the name out loud. This sounds a bit different from the report that I heard. This one sounds like more like it was clear to them that the body is giving way, and the sense that uh, there must be a lot of attention and focus given on this body does not continue sometimes. So this can be related with as a result of even our true self-discovery. But the report I heard was about someone else where it was became very like mental Advaita. What's the point? So nothing. Like that. Still very caught up in identity in some way. I can't hear. Yesterday you were watching. What is to be aware by Adya? Sounds very nice.
It was so interesting. So actually, it says there's no state.
There's no state. Yes.
And all these states that come adds value only to the ego. You had chocolatey experience.
Yes.
Or a blissful state, wow, and all that. This adds only only adds value to your
It is a chocolate flavored
your
moment.
spiritual ego.
Spiritual.
You are a spiritual ego. Oh yeah, such fantastic. This town. I'm so, yeah, happy great. But he says there's nothing out there when you there's no quality. It's just a void. It's totally dark. It is a total
Well,
disappearance.
did he say it's totally dark?
It's dark. It's dark.
Because even dark would be a quality.
Dark.
I doubt very much he would have said.
He said, I don't know. He did say that it is dark.
Devoid of all qualities.
Void. It is a void. Void of all qualities. No color, nothing. There is nothing. And everything that arises from it, all flavors are there.
Yes.
But it is quality.
It is quality.
And there's nothing to say. It is a total disappearance. But yet there's no reference. It is too vast to be to say. It is too vast. Yet it is spoken about. No words can touch it. There's no meaning. But when I'm in feeling there is a non-phenomenal awareness.
Say that again. When
there is a non-phenomenal awareness.
When there is a non-phenomenal awareness, okay.
Awareness aware of itself.
Yes.
It's a nice feeling because I don't know beyond that.
Yes. Is awareness ever truly unaware of itself?
Awareness is never
unaware of itself.
It can never be. I don't know where it has to deepen or mature or whatever.
Does awareness have to deepen or mature? This is a very good point. And adds to what the sage was also saying earlier. What is the maturity that is happening? You see, we must see that. It's very good. So you see that awareness is qualityless. So the sense of progress or maturity cannot apply because that is also a quality. So for the self, for the truest, the absolute self, nothing is changing. The awareness that you recognize has always been that. You see, it's not changing in quality because it has no quality. And yet it is empty of quality. This is the only discovery that you will make, which is, see? Now, what is it that is maturing? What is it that is dropping? What is maturing? Maturing means that we are dropping all that which we falsely believe about ourselves. So as consciousness has attached attributes to itself, I am this, I am that, I am this, this is the way I have to live, this is my plan, this is my future. See, all our projections of past and future, all our qualities that we've given to ourselves, you see, that is what Guruji would say is the associated consciousness or associated beings. So we are coming to unassociated being. So Gopala that came and Gopala that is here now is, and don't quote me on this, is much more mature now. So what changed? For awareness, nothing changed. Consciousness playing in this expression of Gopala, although he continues to be my teenage son only, is maturing. Why? Because most of what was believed by that aspect of consciousness earlier is not believed now. Only some sticky ones are there, which seem to come back over and over. But these don't have that much power. So, in a sense, what happened to the self? Nothing happened. But for that aspect of consciousness playing as Gopala, there was a lot more in your basket of beliefs. Now, all of you, I can say that. So this is a process of maturing, which is part of this outward play of consciousness. Are you getting it? So what is coming to the recognition of awareness? It is consciousness itself. Awareness is own dynamic aspect, own dynamic play. Is it? Is it? All qualities come from the qualityless one. Is it? So that all these qualities put together in a bunch is called consciousness. So sense I am. It's the primal quality, the primal vibration, the primordial being. It comes from where? From the same self. Therefore is what? It's the same self alone. But then it plays as if separation happened, I am something, there is another, all these things they happen. So the dropping of all these false ideas is the spiritual maturity. So what happened to the absolute? Nothing. That's why at some level, if you have millions of lifetimes with full conditioning, nothing really happened. At some level. Now, at another level, from the point of view of consciousness, to come from associated consciousness to pure consciousness, in a way to say, or unassociated consciousness, the better way to say, it's a beautiful part of the play. That is the play that we are playing. In this, is anything changing for awareness? Is it? No satsang or one satsang or thousand satsang, nothing is changing for awareness because it is always the absolute qualityless, solitary witnessing. Okay, now, see, that is because the difference in tradition. The concept of the void is a Zen concept or a Buddhist concept. In Vedanta, you know very well that this is not considered or called the void. Why? Because the void can also create this reference of this like nothing. There is no dark void in that way. All there is a pure witnessing, the self itself. See, so this absolute witnessing is void of all qualities, including voidiness. You see, otherwise, when you hear void, what can happen is that you can have a sense of there being this, like this blank limbo space of nothing, something like that. But you are witness even to that. So, like some Buddhists might say that the non-self witnesses even this void. And then Shankara said that this, which you call the non-self, is what we call the self. So, don't get confused with the terminology. You don't have to go looking for some dark void.
I didn't disappear.
Huh?
I didn't disappear. The world didn't disappear.
The world disappears every night in your sleep. You don't have to worry about
Just a moment I didn't disappear.
the I that disappears. Can that be the truth? See, what is the definition of reality?
That's true.
That which is unchanging.
Yes,
See? So, if it was also disappearing and appearing, what value would it have? We are not looking for that. We are looking for that unchanging reality, the self. Which can never appear or disappear. Did you appear? To disappear, you have to first appear. Did you appear?
that sense, no.
In what sense
In
did you appear?
absolute sense, no.
In what sense did you appear?
As waking consciousness,
As consciousness, you appeared.
Yeah.
And as consciousness, you will disappear every night.
Yes.
So, what has to happen? Something has to change for consciousness. The only change that has to happen for consciousness is that consciousness, considering itself to be something limited, consciousness considering itself to be something, comes to this disappearance of that individual I, the idea of something limited to name and form, and coming to pure I amness itself. an associated being. That's all the seeming switch that needs to happen is only this. How does it happen? Consciousness recognizing its own source, which is this awareness, empty of quality, and consciousness now finding it more and more difficult to believe, to give belief to limited ideas about itself. So then the idea that you have about yourself that was related to name and form, that disappears. Consciousness,
But dynamic life is going on, so that is only purely goodness. I'm eating, whatever, I'm walking,
yes, yes,
I'm doing
that's
this,
what,
I'm doing that.
yes. That is why ultimately the sages say the coming and going of all these states of waking, sleep, dream, turiya, all these states for the self doesn't really matter. So that remains the unchanging self. You are that. Even the appearance and disappearance of being, ultimately for your reality, it does not matter. But only from that perspective can we say that. If we still consider ourselves to be an object within this world, then this being, this consciousness is the Supreme Lord.
I'm not an object. The objectless infinite space.
Yes,
That's my reality.
yes,
But I'm giving attention to this dynamic life and saying these things are happening to me.
okay. So your attention is going. Attention, give attention to everything. What happened? It's still not the birth of the ego, you see. Even by giving attention to this dynamism, dynamic life, is there a ego? It's only when you consider yourself to be an object within this dynamic life and not the source of this. And you consider yourself to be subject to this dynamic life, not the witnessing of it. That is when that is the false side.
So be all the time to be, to stay here and not move with the movement.
All has already happened for you. What is your next move? It is just that. Otherwise, it is you who have to be honest in some way. It is you who heard it from Ashtavakra. But your next move was to pick up again. It is you who heard from every sage that has come since then. It is you who heard, the same guy who heard from all of us. But if we are able to drop the idea of next, of finding something more, then you see that there is nowhere to go, nothing more to discover, nothing that I have to become. Otherwise, we continue to play this game. In what form must this voice finally come to speak? It is the same voice. It will come as all forms in the play to remind you of the very same thing. The terminology might vary from time to time and forms to form. Some will say void, some will say there is no void, some will say Brahman, some will say no Brahman. But most importantly, no matter who is saying what, everybody is clear that the only thing that is needed is to for you directly to come to the recognition of who you are, which you have come. Now, when will you drop that which you are not? That is up to your play. If you see there is nothing to drop, that means there is no thorn left. Drop the butt. The butt will come. Oh, this is fine. It was very good when I was sitting with Ananta. But it'll come. It has come often, isn't it? Has it not been bought? It has been bought. Now, all that you said is very beautiful. When you step out of this room, does the reality of you change? Does the reality of you change? Then what changes is that different events come in your phenomenal play. And at that point, you believe yourself to be a limited identity. That is what is dropping off more and more. Forever now, drop the forever now. Forever now. Huh? Will you drop the forever now? That's it. No, not want to do it. Burn it in the fire of Satsang. So when the next time the mind comes and offers you, but what about the forever? You just laugh at it. Oh, ashes of you are still here. Because you burnt the concept of forever in Satsang. Yes. The laughing at every thought is a outcome of your true recognition of who you are. Natural. Are you laughing at this one? This is how it comes. But I'm telling you truly, it hasn't happened as yet. Believe me. They say about one president that every time he's lying, he says, believe me. The same is for the mind. With everything it is saying, what is it saying? Believe me. It hasn't happened as yet. Who is checking all of this? Who is the I that it is representing? I just said that will happen, the laughing will happen as a natural byproduct of this. You just don't believe anything false about yourself. And leave the idea of the future or what should happen here. Okay, I'm going to repeat because they struggle with the transcripts then later. It is Gopala speaking. He says, here is really effortless. But when I'm at home or something and then I seem to be stuck with something, then I ask, am I aware now? And it seems full of effort.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
The most natural state. It's so natural. It's so total relaxation. Is it true?
Who is the experiencer of all of this? We have to look. You see, now what can happen many times is that we come to the topic of doership, but we still hold on to the experiencership. Is there a person sitting there experiencing any of this? The peace that you experience, is it a personal experience? So who's tasting all of this, experiencing all of this?
Just pure seeing.
Pure seeing, but you have to, the dynamic switch has to come on. You have to be before any experience can be. Pure seeing doesn't go away, even in deep sleep state. But once you be, once your waking state is there, only all this drama, no? Satsang, no satsang. All this can happen only in the waking state. So you have to be for all these experiences. So, so if all of this happens in the light of being, then whose problem is it? Is it anybody's personal problem?
No. It just happens. So
What is this happening? And how you know it is wrong? Even this, for example, if we know that, okay, satsang and outside should be just the same, okay, but life is showing us differently. Because life wants to experience the taste of the contrast of the bliss and joy in satsang and the seeming constriction outside of satsang. Who's to stop life from doing what it is doing? Life experiencing life is playing the way it is wanting to play. Who wants to control that experience? This is the voice of the separation. This is the voice of the limitation. Once I told all of you that everything that arises is your child. So can you not accept that which is arising naturally in a different environment as this, as another creation, as another aspect of your own play? See, because the one who is sitting and checking, it should be like this, it should not be like this. This one is the trickster.
we need a hunky-dory.
Huh?
Hunky-dory way.
Yeah, it says everything has to always be hunky dory. It's the same thing what Adya said. Only chocolate flavored moments.
Awareness is not a problem.
Awareness is not a problem, for consciousness is not a problem. For the one it is a problem does not exist. What to do? Awareness, no problem. For being, is it a problem? Consciousness is doing all of this. Anything can really become a problem for that? Being is just being. No problem. The one for whom anything is a problem, where is that one? The one that sits and says, yes, experience in satsang, A plus. Experiencing at home, C minus. Who's making this report card? Who is this? Just the voice of separation, the voice of our limitation, this mind. But this is just the habit.
Because only the sense of well-being or the absence of the sense of well-being are determining the gradation that we give to various experiences. But
If that was also true, it would be okay. But also what happens is when there's a sense of well-being, then the mind starts going, this should not go. I hope this stays that way. No, I know. You see, because now, just to take his example, but it's true for many, he's in a state of well-being. But is he? No, because the mind is already projecting, when I go back home, then I will lose this and I don't want that. That itself becomes a deterrence to our sense of well-being, even in satsang. So this trickster will come whatever the state might be. And because of its reports and checking, it pulls us towards suffering.
actually, more and more there is an evening out of the consciousness itself, irrespective of the various kinds of environments or various kinds of different things that we meet in the wake of the day. So that kind of differentiation keeps reducing.
Yes. What I've experienced here actually is that the evening out has been more in terms of when this sporadicity it comes momentarily. So it is not, like I say, that anger doesn't become resentment. It doesn't stay. Although something happens, anger can come. It is not always sthirta, shanti, shanti.
No, it's not like that. It's not, the bubbles will be as varied as before, or maybe even more than before. But there is something else that gets evened out.
It's more secure. It is more anchored. Yes.
Yeah. It's not that any of the emotions that were there are no longer there. It's not nothing actually changes superficially, but within there is some kind of anchor is found, which allows us to weather these.
That is true. That's true.
And also that we must not make even this a report. In the sense, we must not even make this a benchmark. It's okay as a report, actually, but not as a benchmark. So, because then you think like, okay, but those who've been coming to satsang, they said that it all evens out, but look at my day, look at my life. That kind of also can play.
Evening out even in the morning.
That is very good. Evening out even in the morning. Like I said, there's only one medicine which is available here. Find out who you are, and all concerns about life, what is going to happen, including about freedom and all states, leave that up to Guru power. Guru power is the best power.
No waiting, no expecting.
No waiting, no expecting, no judging, no interpreting, no resentment, no pride, no guilt, no suffering. Basically. Guru power can run your life or no? Ultimately, it all boils down to this. All the but depends on this question.
Throw the guy, each of us. And, let the guy take it out, throw it out.
Yes. So Guru power can do that or no? Throw the
Yeah,
small
do
guy.
it now, no. Do it now.
Does the Guru power need your controlling driving, saying doing it now, do it tomorrow, don't do it yet, do it day after? Surrender means up to Guruji when he does what he
Disciple
does.
can be a terrorist point of view. Do it now.
Many times disciple can have the garb of the disciple but wanting to master the master. So if this is a disciple who is driving the master, do it today, do it tomorrow, do it day after when I'm ready. You see, then who's the master actually in this situation? When the master is the servant, yes sir, when do you want me to do it? Now? I know what you mean, but I'm just joking just to make this point that even that is an expectation. Whatever state Ram wants to keep me in is Ram's problem.
Why he wants pathetic states?
That is his problem. Why he wants what he wants, who will get into the mind of Ram and tell us?
Father,
That kind of argument is okay actually sometimes. Like, Ramji, what is with you? Why can't you just fix this life? It's okay. From time to time, tantrums are all right.
I sent that audio in the Sangha group, Bangalore Sangha, only for you. Otherwise, I would not post anything like that in that group.
Okay, I'll listen to it, my dear. I haven't heard it.
Oh, okay.
So, when the Guru has to do what he has to do, whether he has to do what he has to do, whether everything is already done or not done, all this, whose problem? His problem. This but and Guru power cannot both survive. You see, either in the Guru power you will see but does not survive, or you keep giving value to the but and then you will find that more and more it is ego, spiritual ego. You see, then Guru power seems to win. That is the play of this world. Ultimately, the ultimate victor is always Guru power. But in your current play, that is how it seems to play out. Sadhguru's grace is never fighting for the throne. You have to overthrow the incumbent mind and say, this is my space. The mind is always fighting for the throne. When you're done with it, click it away. Automatically, what do you find? Guruji.
Somebody did it like that.
Huh?
That's the Prime Minister.
Prime Minister wanted to be the king, okay?
Prime Minister wanting to
Yes.
be
Yes. Well, Prime Minister for the mind would be a compliment. There will come a time to be nice to the mind. I'm not saying we, but for now, trickster is okay.
Be a prime minister.
Yeah.
We are what?
Try.
Ah.
Very trying on life. And check it. From the intuitive presence. So capsules have these two sides, no? At least in India, capsules are like that. You see, two different colors. So there are two sides to my medicine. One is find out who you are. The second side is your life is the Sadguru's problem. This can be the final satsang. Actually, both are not independent. It's one capsule. The recognition is the discovery of your own intuitive presence. And the more you remain with your intuitive presence, you will see that the recognition is so clear. See?
The red and the blue parts.
But not two pills, not red pill and blue pill, one. You can trust this. Guru's grace. You can trust this Guru power. This unassociated being, consciousness, from which all these aspects, even the gods, arise from this. Everything, even the primal forces in this creation, rely on this presence. Light and sound, space and time. Nothing exists without this presence, this existence. It's nothing new that is being offered here in Satsang. Bhagavan also said the same thing. Inquire or surrender or both. All the sages of the past, in their different flavors, have always pointed us to this very same truth. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you all so much for being in Satsang today. Sadhguru Shri Muji Ji ki Jai.
Sadhguru Shri Ananta Ji ki
Jai.